How precious. Every generation since the Baal Shem Tov opened it up more. Of course, the Gemara says, Afal pi shachata Yisroel hu. But we thought that was some kind of a legal definition. So somebody used a mashal recently to explain Rosh Hashanah. Imru lefonai malchiyes kadesha tamlichuni aleichem. Blow the shofar, daven to me, so that I will be your king. And that's a scary thought, because what if the Eibishter decides not to be our king? What's going to happen? So he used this mashal very beautiful. A man finds a woman that he loves, and he asks her to marry him. She agrees. He gets so excited, he goes and he hires the best architects in the world, because he's very rich, hires the best architects in the world to build the most beautiful house. Then he hires the best caterers the world has ever seen to do the wedding. And he hires the best musicians, and he hires the best photographer, and whatever else a wedding needs. The best batchen. Now, what would happen if the week before the wedding, the woman says, I changed my mind. I don't want to get married. What's going to happen with all the excitement and pleasure that he had from the architect and from the caterer and from the best in the whole world? When she says no, all of that becomes completely meaningless. Worse than meaningless. It's clutter. He has to get rid of them. He has to fire them, give them severance pay. He has, whatever it is, he has to get rid of it. He has no pleasure and no desire for architects and buildings because, well, without her, what does he need? What does he need caterers for? Yeah. If the Yidden don't blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah, the Eibishter says, you think I need a world? I need stars and planets and trees and animals and bones and stones. Darf nicht. I'm not interested in any of that unless you say yes. We have to be mechanech ourselves. We have to be mechanech our children. This is the emes. It's not a matter of getting to heaven. It's not a matter of being a tzaddik. It's not self-improvement. This is emes. The whole creation is because the Eibishter wants to have you. That's why Ivdu es Hashem is a simcha. Not another obligation. Not only do you have to Ivdu es Hashem, you better do it b'simcha. No. If you're trying to figure out what you need, you'll never be b'simcha. When you realize you don't need, and his need becomes important, Ivdu es Hashem, wow, that's a relief. That's a simcha. When you train children like this, why would they ever walk away? So for this alone, and basically this is what the Alter Rebbe says in Igeres HaTshuva. The Chidush of Igeres HaTshuva, the third part of Tanya, the Chidush of Igeres HaTshuva is, Tshuva means go back to him, not regret your sins. Regret who you sinned against. That's real guilt. That's healthy guilt. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just being thoughtless. The chiddush of Torah is not that there's one Eibishter. People say, Jews gave monotheism to the world. They would have figured it out after a while. I mean, how many times can you bow to a statue before you? It wouldn't have taken long. They would have figured out there's only one Eibishter. Right? The real gift that we gave the world is that we gave them Elikim Chayim, a living Eibishter, not a statue that can't be hurt and can't be upset and can't really care and can't be bothered because he's perfect. That's not an Eibishter. That's a statue. What is the Eibishter? I mean, just listen to the words. Your heart melts. The Eibishter says, what is the Lashon? Shamaiti na'akas b'nei Yisroel. Vayeda Elikim. What does that mean? I hear you crying and I know. What does that mean? The Eibishter is saying, I know what it means to cry. I know what it means to be in pain. I know what it means to be frustrated and ignored. Because when you need me, you get frustrated. Imagine when I need you. Vayeda Elikim. He's not an Eibishter that doesn't understand pain. He doesn't understand suffering. He doesn't understand tears. So Bachurim and Yeshiva ask, how do you know the Eibishter is listening when you daven? How do you know? Well, you have to accept it be'emunah. The Eibishter is not cruel. He understands pain. How can he not hear you if you're crying? He cries. In fact, where did we learn how to cry? From him. David HaMelech in Tehillim tells us something about the Eibishter that we didn't know before. What didn't we know before? That if you cry to him, your tears have an effect. Who are you talking to? You're talking to an Eibishter who can't be bothered and he can't be hurt and he can't be... So what are you saying? You think you're impressing him because Hoysoli Dimosi? You cried a lot. You cry all day. Who are you talking to? If the Eibishter doesn't cry, then why do you think your tears are going to have an effect? Hatzileinina. I'm surrounded by enemies. Does the Eibishter know what that means? Oh yeah, he's very smart. Not smart. Das means, Das means I feel it. Vayeda Elikim. Our chiddush that we bring to the world is not that there's one Eibishter. The Muslims believe that there's one Eibishter. But he never cries. Nothing ever hurts him. So if you want to be like the Eibishter, nothing should ever hurt you, you should never cry, be cold, perfect, horrible. Tehillim, basically, Ne'im Zmiris Yisroel. David wasn't described, it wasn't an autobiography. He wasn't talking about himself. He was telling us that whatever pain you have, the Eibishter knows because he has it first. We are created in his image. So if we need to be connected to him, if we need to feel a tachlis and a purpose, where do we get that from? From him. Because he created the world with a tachlis, with a purpose. And if it doesn't happen, it bothers him. And if he talks to you and you don't answer, it bothers him. Lama bossi ve'eina. Huh? What was the word before? Madua bossi ve'ein ish. Does it matter? Of course it matters. The Eibishter is real. So what is Avas Hashem? Avas Hashem is true. How is it possible to have Avas Hashem? How can you not? How can you not love someone who reaches out to you, who needs you, who wants to be yours? If you say to a child, when you make a bracha, the Eibishter is so happy because he's waiting to hear your bracha. This is a kid who's gonna rebel. He'll only get better. So for that alone, we have to thank the Alter Rebbe, and there's so much more to thank him for. L'chaim. The Aveda, you mean? To him it means a lot.
To him it means a lot. What I do not did something for you. The whole point is not necessarily that I better that you made something, but it is the fact that you did that very it's that something connected to so that means that action is also nothing. The license says I say that you didn't do what means nothing. It's just the fact that it's whether you were whatever any other sorry, it's past bedtime. You just have to say
That's what the mitzvah says. You can't measure a mitzvah. You don't know which one is a biggie and little.
It's not about the mitzvah more than a vera. It's about the actual measure and a vera in what Hashem looks at. What about ourselves? We can understand how Hashem looks at our vera. That's what measure is. And this doesn't necessarily mean don't look at our vera that you do.
But that's why every Aveda is as bad as any other Aveda. Because look who you did it to.
So the difference between, let's say, I should have Aveda that was skewed or sick or terribly that Aveda is so much greater than the one that was
And the Zohir, Kala, and Chamura. So there is a Kala, there's a Chamura. And yet, why are you coming to that conclusion? Every action is equally important. Not unimportant. Oh. Baruch Hashem,
Oh, so you are going to Palm Springs? Now it gets good. Everyone is going?
Pesach, not next week.
Yassi. Okay, very good. It's good to see you.
Does my question make sense?
Yeah.
Your relationship with myself, I did something. Actual action, not necessarily something negative. Actual action, whatever that I did. That in itself, yes.
How does the action get you?
I don't know. Because when I see something, I agree with you. I agree. I'm counseling the same. That's an actual relationship. So you have to get back that relationship. If it's something negative in life, you have to try to do it. Trust me. Whatever that means. What do you do?
So you're asking, is there something inherently wrong with the act itself, even if you take out the Eibishter? Not the Gabriel, the Hefze.
Just a quick question.
Is the Hefze of the Aveda evil?
I don't know. It could be anything.
It must be. So the Eibishter hates it.
Like what one said before, it's not
When you said before that the first thing was created the first
What makes a sin?
7 days, 10, what's going on?
No, if the Eibishter hates Chazal, is there something wrong with the Chazal?
He created it. Something wrong with it. That's it. He just doesn't want us to. We're a kid. We're a kid. But when he created it, shows us that we don't need it.
Yishomer L'chol, Yishomer is not L'chol. What?
What you said about Hashem created the world without First and third.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
You're saying not. Like,
right,
I don't think you're arguing. I'm saying you're saying not when it can't come.
there has to be a reason for the Ava. So yeah, he created out of Ava. But you gotta back up. And before that, except that Yudkei Vavkei is a name, not him.
As a matter of fact, somebody told me, you told me if you know the part, that there's a Rashi that says Yudkei Vavkei is not a Hebrew word, it's not Lashon HaKodesh, it's actually Harav. Because Lashon HaKodesh, we cannot explain or even name, name the Atmis of Hashem.
I'd like to wish a special mazel tov to Mati Bistritsky for the birthday of his son.
Amazing. It's higher than Hashem. And Yudkei Vavkei.
Because the relationship
So he said, hi, I'm Friedman. I'm Friedman.
I'm telling you who I am.
Friedman is
I'm
my
letting you
name.
in. I.
The best part of it, bringing is
In
coming
other
now.
words, Vayemer
If you come around the
Hashem
table, join around the table, this is the best part. Gets
Hashem.
intimate,
No,
gets into the real deal.
Hashem
Rabbi
spoke to
Yosef,
Moshe. Who's saying it?
Gaining schlossen.
Hashem. Moshe.
Some people marry a rich girl.
Make an announcement 7:45.
what?
Sharp.
There's a 9 o'clock
Vayomer Hashem
chapter.
al Moshe.
You
What
listen,
about Vayidaber? Different?
same thing.
Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe.
Special mazel tov to Moshe Aronoff for the seal on the Shas this week.
Listen, what's his name?
Shlomo.
Flaming.
Mazel tov to Yisrael
You know what we're
Meir
talking
Mickey for
about?
his birthday. To Shmulik Chaim for his
Vayemer
birthday.
Hashem El Moshe.
Who's saying
Shnas Hatzlacha.
Who's the narrator?
Hold on, we all want to hear him.
Hashem
Rabbi Friedman.
told Moshe what to write.
We all want to hear him.
But when he wants to say that, he says Vayemer Hashem Elai.
He's saying the whole concept of the narration of the Torah. So what's the shot?
Bereshis Bara Elikim. Who's talking?
I'm thinking just as the layman yeshiva guy that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote.
Shemay, hang on one
Bereshis
second.
bara Elokim.
Wait, who said
You're going to
it?
lose the whole item.
Hashem told Moshe what to write because he wanted these words to be written.
So Hashem said it?
Hold on. Hang on. Let's get the whole item in.
Who's spring? We have a question here. We have a question here. It's very fundamental. And that is, if we're not supposed to do a mitzvah for the reward, then why does the Torah keep telling us what the reward is? In fact, in Pirkei Avos itself, in the first Perek it says, Al tiyu ka'avodim, don't do it for the reward. And then later in Pirkei Avos, you find a number of times where the reward is mentioned. Hevei machashiv schar mitzvah keneged hefseda. Lefum tzaira agra. According to the pain is the reward. So all of a sudden we're back to rewards again. And in reverse, if the only issue is the Eibishter, then why for some Avedas you have to pay a fine? And for other Avedas, you get a much more serious punishment. Why is that? The Eibishter says you should eat matzah. L'man tizker es yom tzeischa me'eretz Mitzrayim. You should eat matzah so that you will remember coming out of Mitzrayim. So that sounds like a mitzvah with a reason. Right? The mitzvah is to eat matzah. The reason is to remember coming out of Mitzrayim. Sit in a sukkah. Leman yedu dereseichem. Right? So it sounds like a mitzvah with a reason. Mishpatim. The truth is, when the Eibishter says, eat matzah and remember coming out of Mitzrayim, we don't know what the reason is. The reason itself needs a reason. You want me to eat matzah so that I'll remember coming out of Mitzrayim. Why do you care if I remember or not? So in a sense, every mitzvah is beyond reason. They're all chukim. The same is true with schar and einish. When the Torah tells you what the schar is, it's not giving you a reason to do the mitzvah. It's describing the mitzvah. For this mitzvah, you will have the peiros in Olam Hazeh, and the keren will be, you'll be rewarded in this world and in the next world. Oh, so that's why I should do it? No. I'm just telling you the nature of the mitzvah. The nature of this mitzvah is that leman yarichun yomech. So you should do it for arichas yomim? No. You should appreciate the nature of the mitzvah. Why should you do it? Because the Eibishter is asking you to do it. Now with the Avedas, when it says for this Aveda you get kodesh, for this Aveda you get what? That's not the reason not to do it. That's a description of the Aveda. This, like for example, you shouldn't spill wine on your clothes. Now, some of the things you wear, if you spill wine on it, you let it dry, you rub it off a little bit, it'll come off, it'll be fine. Other material, not so easy. If you spill wine on it, you have to take it to the dry cleaners, you're going to have to go. Other material, if you spill wine on it, it'll never come out, there's nothing you can do. So it's describing the difference in the material. This is harder to clean, this is easier to clean. If you do this Aveda, you create a tumah on your body. Tumah on your body. If you go to the mikveh, you take it off. But what if you create a tumah in your mind? Going to the mikveh is going to help? To get the tumah out of your mind is a little harder than getting it off your hand. And what if you're matama your nefesh? Oh, for this. So it's just a question of how to clean it up. This is easier to clean up and this is harder to clean up. Well, why shouldn't you do it? You shouldn't do it because the Eibishter doesn't want you to do it. So we make a mistake in thinking that the Eibishter is giving us a motivation. The only motivation that the Eibishter gives us is, if you do this, I'll be angry. That's enough motivation. For example, in Chinuch, you have a child, a 10-year-old, and you say to the child, don't do that. You tell the child, don't do the other thing. Should it make a difference to the child whether he's breaking a big crystal vase or a little crystal vase? Should it make a difference to the kid what's more expensive or less expensive? I know you told me not to break this, but it doesn't cost a lot. Is that a good answer? Am I your father or not? Now tell me how much it cost. The same thing with the punishment. So Chassidus offers a very interesting example. A child is running around without shoes. So the father says to the child, put on your shoes. You'll hurt yourself. The child says, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. The father says, you'll get a splinter. He says, so what? What's a splinter? The father says, but if you get a splinter, it can become infected. He says, yeah, not big deal. So he's running around without his shoes, and he gets a splinter, and it gets infected, and his leg is in danger. Take him to the doctor, and the doctor takes these sharp instruments, and he cuts and he pokes, and the kid is in pain. It's horrible. But they save the leg. Now the kid is back on his feet. He's running around without shoes. So the father says to him, put on your shoes, you'll hurt yourself. Nah, I'm not afraid. You'll get a splinter. No big deal. It'll get infected. Okay, fine, I'll take you to the doctor. Oh, okay. And he goes and he puts on his shoes. That's called a child. You tell the child you're going to cause damage, he's not impressed. You tell him that the cure might hurt, he's more afraid of the cure than of the damage. The punishment is the cure. Eibusha doesn't just punish out of revenge. For every damage, there's a what is it called? A correction of it. For this, you're going to have to go through Gehenim Shel Eish. For that, you'll have to go through Gehenim Shel Sheleg, which means you're either stuck living in Miami or you're stuck living in Minnesota, depending on which Gehenim you deserve. But a person who says, I don't mind doing the Aveda, I don't mind causing the Tumah, I don't mind destroying the world. Oh, you're going to fix it by, the fixing hurts. No, that I'm not going to do. That's backwards. Don't be afraid of the cure. Be afraid of the damage. Gehenim is the cure, not the damage. You tell people, don't do an Aveda. Oh, will I go to Gehenim? No, what's the problem? The problem is that there are some people whose Avedas are so bad, they're not allowed into Gehenim. Why? Because Gehenim is not going to help. You're so badly damaged that the Gehenim will not help. So what helps? Other stuff. I don't want to talk about it. The Teichacha, for example. If you do this, I'll get tough with you and you'll suffer and what is all that? Intimidation? No. What it's saying is, no matter how much damage you create, I will fix it, and I'm going to have you, because I will never give up on you. So if I have to punish, and if I have to scatter you, and if I have to, whatever it takes, I'm not leaving you. You're not going to get away from me. So that's a promise of loyalty, not a threat of horrors. I think I had this in 1970. Baal Tshuva Yeshiva opened in Eretz Yisrael. And then soon after that, another Baal Tshuva Yeshiva opened up in New York. But both of them were for men. I was sitting in Minnesota, my first year there. We have this big Chabad house with 30 bedrooms. And during the year, we had people come for Shabbos, whatever. In the summer, the place was empty. The kids were away at camp, the adults were in their summer homes. So we're sitting around, we're talking, what should we do? So as a joke, one of us said, there were 3 shulchan at the time, one of us said, you know, all these guys, the Baal Tshuva and the Baal Tshuva yeshivas, who are they going to marry? Maybe we should make a program for Baal Tshuva women. It was a joke. But somehow, we said, yeah, it's not a bad idea. So we sent out a flyer to 6 campuses in the Midwest, inviting college women to come spend their summer learning. We were very surprised. 18 women showed up from different places. It was much better than we expected. They wanted to learn day and night. Mamish day and night. They were these intense, rebellious political activists who wanted to stop the war in Vietnam, and they wanted to change the campuses. They were burning down campuses. These were and they were very disillusioned because they couldn't stop the war, and they couldn't burn down the universities. So when they saw that flyer that said, come learn about something, they walked in there and said, you know something? What have you got to tell us? Originally, we thought that we would teach for a couple hours a day. It's vacation time. They'll go sightseeing. They'll go shopping a little bit. Not these women. Shopping? Sightseeing? We, mamish, had classes from 9 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock in the morning. Some went to sleep, the other ones got up. Classes went on around the clock. And they couldn't learn enough. I would figure this is pretty good. We sent out a flyer the next year, 102 women. And it's been going on ever since. So now, 40 whatever years later, we've had 20,000 women of all ages, backgrounds, countries. Women were coming from Eretz Yisrael to a place called St. Paul to learn Yiddishkeit. It was amazing. What came out of it, over and over again, if you try to tell people how much good it will do them, this will be so good for you. Your life will be better. Your marriage will be better. Your family will be better. Maybe they'll try it for a while. When you tell them the Eibishter has been waiting for your mitzvah since the first day of creation, or better yet, 2,000 years before creation, nobody walks away cold. More or less, but they can't ignore it. So they come for a week, 2 weeks, maximum. In the olden days, when you had hippies who were not employed, they had all the free time in the world. Today it doesn't happen so much. So some of them would stay for a month. But it's a crash course, in and out. What can you accomplish in 2 weeks? What can you accomplish in 1 week? A person who knows mamish nothing. I tell you, this one woman came 1974, 73. She came from India, directly from India. She came because she met a Buddhist boy. They want to get married. But the Buddhist had a problem. The problem was that he was spiritual and she was not. How is this going to work? So they came up with a brilliant plan. She doesn't want to become a Buddhist. He understands that. But he's spiritual and she's not. So the plan was she should come back to the United States and become spiritual Jewishly. Then when she's spiritual and he's spiritual, that's a Gleiche Shidduch. Then they could get married. So she came to Beis Chana program to become spiritual so that she could marry the Buddhas. That's the plan. The third day that she was there, I find her crying on the lawn. I said, what's the matter? She said, I can't marry him. She realized the plan was not good. A Jew, a non-Jew, can't marry him. And I thought, oh boy, this is going to be a problem. She can't marry him. She understands it. Done. What is she crying? She's crying, he's such a nice guy. How will I break this to him? That was her problem. Not, oh, but I want to marry him. Oh, can't marry him. Finished. It's amazing. Jews are absolutely... But how do I break this to him? He's such a sweet guy. I don't want to hurt him. So I thought I'll be a chacham, a hero. I said, you want me to talk to him? He's an Indian, you know what I mean? Like, I'm offering to talk to him. She says, you'll talk to him nice? I said, sure. I have nothing against him. She says, good. Oh, fine. She's happy. I'm happy. I go away. She comes back to me a half hour later. He'll be here on Friday. He's flying in from India. Anyway, he shows up, Taka. I didn't believe it. He shows up late Friday. He hasn't got a penny to his name. A little backpack. A sweet guy. I don't know what to do with him. He ends up staying in my house for Shabbos. And a whole Shabbos, I'm trying to explain to him why she can't marry him. And he doesn't understand because if she's spiritual and I'm spiritual, what's the problem? There's only one God. So I'm trying to tell him how strange Yiddishkeit is. No. We can't eat any animals other than cows. Cows are sacred. Wow, yeah. He's thrilled. Good, that's your thing. Right, good. No problem. I said, no, you don't understand. We swing chickens over our heads. He says, wow, really? No matter what I said, the weirder I got, the more he liked it. It's already Shabbos afternoon. And he doesn't understand. What's the problem? Finally, he says, look, I don't see a problem here. You have your holy men, we have our holy men. So then I thought of an idea. I said, yeah, isn't that interesting? You have holy men. We have holy men. And yet, when our holy man wakes up in the morning, God waits for him to put on tefillin. When your holy man wakes up in the morning, God is not expecting him to put on tefillin. Bingo. I said, oh, right. Okay, bye. He went back to India, it was over. The one thing that always made an impression is lefnim mishuras hadin. Tell them that it's better for you to do this. Don't worry about me. Everybody's telling me how to make my life better. What are you, another salesman? But when you tell them the Eibush that is waiting for your mitzvah, the neshama just responds. The way only a Jewish neshama can respond. This is the reality of Achris Hayomim. What is Achris Hayomim? When we finally get down to the essence of our relationship with the Eibush. There was a time when we thought that the only reason the Eibishter loves us is because we said Massive Inishma. The other nations refused to take the Torah. So fine. So he appreciates our cooperation. We're very cooperative. Then we found out that if you learn Torah, it's even more precious. Talmud Torah keneged kulam. More than your willingness to do the mitzvahs, you're immersing yourself in Torah, absorbing Torah into your brain, into your heart. That makes you even more precious to the Eibishter. Then the Baal Shem Tov came along and said, it's not a question of whether mitzvahs are more important or Torah is more important. It's not a question of whether a tzaddik is more important or an ish poshet is more important. The important thing is that you're a Jew. This is like getting down to Fiddler on the Roof? Huh? Tevye asks his wife, do you love me? She says, what are you talking about? For 25 years I have been whatever, What is the answer? Do I love you? We're way beyond that already. I'm yours. I am yours. Isn't that more important than love? It's not, I have an emotion that connects me to you. All of me, the whole me, I am yours. That's the difference between loving somebody or marrying somebody. Marrying means you have me. Harei at mekudeshes li. So when we get down to the basic connection, the rock bottom, that's Achdus Hayom. Once that becomes clear, once that becomes revealed, once the world can celebrate this amazing relationship between the Eibishter and Yidden, then we have Olam Haba. Olam Haba means we don't have to hide the fact that the Eibishter not only loves Yidden, but chooses Yidden and created the whole world for this relationship with the Yid. When we don't have to hide that, because the whole world agrees, V'ro kol amei ha'oretz, they all see it and they all love it, and they all want to help promote this relationship. That's Mashiach. Is this happening in the world? It's happening. It is happening. Nachabisala. But we have to be ready. They'll be ready in a minute. We're the ones who are the Amshei Eireth. We need to be convinced. They don't need to be convinced. I'll tell you one more story. For some reason, when I came to Minnesota, the seminary that produces the galachim, the the priests of the Baptists, Northern Baptists, and Lutherans. Minnesota is very Lutheran. So they have the big seminary there. Somehow I got invited to speak there. And of course, at first I was very skeptical of, oh, what do they want? And, oh, no, they push it want to know. What do they want to know? They want to know if Jews approve of what they believe. Because they're not so sure anymore. That's really what. So they want to hear from a rabbi if what they believe is right. Anyway, so 1 year, after having spoken there many times, 1 year, the first year ministers, they had been ministers for a year, they come back after the first year for a refresher, whatever it's called. Yeah? They come back for a 4-day retreat. That year, they asked that one afternoon of those 4 days, they want to be at the Chabad house. So far. As long as they're makabel and not trying to... Fine. It turned out that the day that they were coming was in the middle of the Beis Chana program, and at that time, we had 60 women. So when they came, they sat in the middle of the room, and the 60 women were sitting around the wall, around the periphery of the room. There was one girl there, 17-year-old girl, who had gotten it into her head that she wants to become a Mormon. She heard that the Baptists are coming to, priests are coming to the Chabad house. She said, I gotta stay and see this. It was 2 days. So she stayed 2 days just to see. So she's one of the girls sitting around the wall, and she's sitting at the edge of her seat. I knew pretty much how it's going to go. They'll ask me 2 or 3 questions about Judaism, and then they'll start asking me about what they believe to see if it's... First question was, the Melachos on Shabbos, how do you know what you're not allowed to do on Shabbos? Good question, huh? Second question. What's the relationship of Rabbi Akiva with Lag BaOmer? Not bad for a Galaf, huh? Next question. Do you believe in heaven and hell? All right, it's starting already. They're checking it out. So I said, yes, of course. When the neshama goes back to the world of souls and it fits right in as if it never left, that's heaven. If it comes back to Ilam HaNeshamas, but it smells like a body and it feels like a body, that's embarrassing. So it burns with shame. That's Ganem. And at most, maximum, 12 months. By the end of 12 months, it's burned off the memory of the body, and now it's a soul like every other soul. But to believe that hell can go on forever is idolatry. You're not allowed to believe that. Because that means that evil goes on forever. Evil can't be forever. The Jewish women sitting around the room panicked. You can't say that. This is their whole belief. Eternal damnation. You can't tell them that this... They had no complaints, no questions. Fine. They were relieved. It's not true, right? Oh, good. They were so relieved. Next question. Do you believe in Satan? I said, sure. Satan is a malach. Like every other angel, it's sent on missions, it carries out its mission. Unfortunately, it gets to do all the dirty work, but it's an angel. To think that it has an agenda and it's at war with the Eibishter, and that's Greek mythology. You're not allowed to believe that. The women gasped. You can't say that to a bunch of galachim. No complaints from them. They're okay with that. They like it. Next question. Do you believe that God can come down in a body? I said, yes. In the end of days, the separation between the Eibishter and his world will be taken away, and the Eibishter will be in everybody. Not what they were taught. No complaint. It went on like this, till finally they said, do you believe in the Messiah? I said, yes, he's a descendant of King David, he's a Jewish leader, and he'll come, bring peace to the world. But it's not enough to believe. We've got to do something to help. The sooner Jews go back to keeping all the mitzvahs, the sooner he'll come. Not what they believe. Right? When I said that, this one guy raises his hand and he says, is there anything we can do to help? This girl was sitting at the edge of her seat. When he said that, I said, Mashiach will come when Jews go back to being good Jews. He says, is there anything we can do to help? She was so stunned that she leaned forward a little more and the chair tipped over. She literally fell out of her chair. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Anyway, the class was over. The program was over. She comes over to me and she says, I'm not going to Utah. I said, what's the point? I'll go there. They'll bring me here for an afternoon. Might as well just stay here. So what, no rabbi, not the principal of her day school, not her frum zayde, nobody could budge her. This first year galach fixed the problem with his question. So they are not the problem. Got to get Jews to feel a little more proud, a little more Go'en Yankiv. Not proud of Einstein. Proud of the Torah. Proud of the Chachamim. Proud of every Jewish minhag. It's all fantastic. Hiding is no longer necessary. I once had some speaker. He was a very popular character, and we asked him to come speak at our dinner. He was a Jewish guy, but he knew nothing. So we said to him, you're going to speak for us. Can we tell you a little bit what Chabad is? He says, no, it's okay. What are you going to say about Chabad if you have to? It's all right. Leave it alone. I'll handle it. Anyway, he was telling jokes. He was telling the story of his life. And finally, he says, among his many jokes, he says, Jews are paranoid. We're afraid. Everything has to be shash too. Don't make waves. Don't make waves. He said there were two Jews who were caught by the Nazis, and they were put up against the wall, and the guy was counting down to fire. Ready, aim, and one of the Jews said, Shema Yisroel, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. The other one said, Shah, you'll get us in trouble. Shah, you'll get us in trouble. Low profile. Keep a low profile. Did you notice the size of the Chabad menorahs? That's all we had to say. No low profile. No hiding. Big menorahs. The world wants to know what we know. The world needs to know what we know. Hiding is not good. Along the line of what we've been talking about. What is the biggest Aveda in the world? Chilul Hashem. Chilul Hashem, even b'sheigig, even terrible thing. What is the biggest mitzvah in the world? Kiddush Hashem. Say that in simple language. If you give the Eibishter a bad name, it's the worst thing. If you give the Eibishter a good name, it's the best thing. Really, the Eibishter really cares about his reputation. The Eibishter who is Bli Gvul, Ein Seif, Koil Yochol, Asher Molach, B'terem Kol Yitzur Nivra. He cares about his reputation. Obviously, yes. Because Chilul Hashem is the worst thing, and Kiddush Hashem is the best thing. The greatest thing. It's not enough to mind our own business and behave ourselves. We have to make a Kiddush Hashem. Not talking about the Eibishter is not a Kiddush Hashem. And yet for, I don't know how long, 100 years, yeshivas don't talk about the Eibishter. There's hardly any conversation about the Eibishter. Why? Yeah, we don't really know. Who knows? We can't know. If the biggest mitzvah in the world is Kiddush Hashem, and we don't even talk about him, if the worst thing in the world is Achilul Hashem, we don't know anything about him. So this is the other thing we have to thank the Alter Rebbe. You know, I'm sure the famous, when they showed the Tanya, the manuscript, when they showed it to the Berditchever, he said, it's amazing. How did the Alter Rebbe put such a big Eibishter into such a little book? It wasn't a joke. Nobody ever presented the Eibishter so vividly, so close, so real, as the Alter Rebbe does in Tanya. He makes the Eibishter knowable and therefore lovable. Before that, we didn't know him, we didn't love him. So we have to catch up on this. We were like 100 years behind. We've neglected the Eibishter for 100 years. Worse, for 100 years we were under the impression that the Eibishter exists to serve us, to teach us, to be mezakia us, to reward us, to protect us. Like he serves us. It's a one-way relationship. We've got to bring the Eibishter back and bring the Eibishter down to this world. We're saying, where's Bistrutsky? We're saying the neshama should have an aliyah. I'm not sure what that means. The neshamas don't want aliyahs. The neshamas want to come back to Olam Hazeh. They don't want to go to another heaven, higher and higher. They don't want. They want to come back to Olam Hazeh because in Olam Hazeh you can do a mitzvah to serve him. In Gan Eden, he serves you. Which is nice. It's not what a neshama wants. A neshama wants to serve him, not to be served. And that's why in Torah and Yiddishkeit, you make a big deal about Gan Eden. Yeah, when you die, you go to Gan Eden. Where are you going to go? But, like, that's a goal in life? The goal in life is to be here, gesund, serving the Eibishter. Moshe Rabbeinu knew where he was going, to a pretty nice Gan Eden, but he davened 515 times not to go. He wanted to stay here. That's Jewish. Because we want to serve him. And that's why every Yid who does even one mitzvah is a Kiddush Hashem. People look at us and think, what are you getting? Where's your reward? You're Jewish, and you're devoted, and you're loyal, and what do you get? You get thrown out of country after country. Everybody hates you. You have inquisitions. You have pogroms. Now you have a Holocaust. What are you getting from this? Why are you still Jewish? The fact that we're still Jewish is a huge Kiddush Hashem. Because it basically means we're not doing it for us. For us, it doesn't pay. We're doing it for him. That's a huge Kiddush Hashem. So can you imagine if the whole world started to think like this? Here there was one Galach who said, what can we do to help? Yidden will bring Mashiach. Goyim are out. But we'd like to help. And it's a privilege for them. You see how world peace can happen? It's so close. It's so close. I got a phone call from a guy. He says, my father passed away. What's the right thing to do? I said, well, what does your rabbi say? I didn't know if he was Orthodox. I know. I said, what is your rabbi? He said, no, I'm not Jewish. I said, so what is what's your tradition? What's your church? He said, I know what they say. I'm asking you, what's the right thing? They know. They're ready. Tell them the truth, they got it. They were told for 2,000 years that they know who Mashiach is. They'll drop it in a second. But tell them the truth. Make a Kiddush Hashem. But the main thing is, what do we tell our children? It's so crucial. I mean, we see what's going on in the world. Kids don't just accept what you tell them. You can't expect children to just behave because you expect them to behave. This is not happening. Children are very independent, and if they don't have a relationship with the Eibishter, what is almost every teenager who rebels? Almost every teenager says exactly the same words. It's your religion, you keep it. I'm not interested. And you can't blame them because that's the impression they were given. We are frum. In this house, we don't do that. Fine, you don't do that. Leave me alone. The first time one of my boys came home and said, how come you're not allowed to do whatever it was? How come you're not allowed to do that on Shabbos? I don't know, find out. What is this, my Eibishter? It's like my religion? I don't know. Find out. Your Eibishter wants you to do this, so work it out. Come to me. Gotta be careful. Don't give the impression that this is house rules. You have an Eibishter. Talk to him. You know, there used to be those Lag BaOmer parades when the Rebbe would come out. So there was one year that the Rebbe told Rabbi Hecht that he should make the parade, but the Rebbe is not coming in. So Rabbi Hecht says, if the Rebbe is not coming out, then why should I make a parade? The Rebbe said, don't tell me, tell the Rashbi. Go tell the Rashbi you're not making a parade in his honor. So if your child comes home and says, why do I have to? You talk to the Eibishter and work it out. I'm not asking you to do it. The Eibishter is asking you to do it. But if we're smart, we convey that message before they ask. If there is a rebellious teenager because they did not get that message, it's not too late. It's not too late. You sit down and you start all over again. Say, wait a minute. In the beginning, there was an Eibishter, and he created the whole world, and he did it for a reason, and you're part of that reason. You want to know where you fit in? Well, you're not interested. I'm going to share with you the most, 43 years of talking to people, the most powerful moment, and there are many, Jews are amazing, but there was one very powerful moment. I flew into Brazil, and they took me straight from the airport to a place. There had been a terrible accident months before, where a 19-year-old boy was driving in from the summer home that they had up in the mountains. He was driving back into the city for slichas. It was a Svardish community. They say slichas a whole month. So it was like the beginning of Elul. He left the summer home, driving in with his friends, 3 of his friends, to come for slichas. And on the way they had an accident, and the others survived, but he died. His mother hadn't left the house in months. She was severely... They convinced her to come to this event. A rabbi from New York, they made up a whole big deal about it. They got her out of the house. So now, they bring me into the building, into the house. They tell me quickly what's going on. And they said, she's here. She just talk to her. Oh, come on. What are you doing? Talk to her. What am I supposed to tell her? But there she was. I'm standing in front of her. The whole crowd is around. Talk to her. So I ask her, what was he like? And she goes on and on about how wonderful he was. And he was an amazing kid. They were not a frum family, but he had to come in for slichus. Anyway, she goes on and on and on. And I said to her, so you had him for 19 years. She wasn't buying it. So I said, if the Eibishter had come to you in advance and said, there's a neshama that needs to come down to be born, but only for 19 years. He's a great neshama, wonderful neshama, but he only needs to be here for 19 years. So I'm looking for a mother for this child. Would you be his mother for 19 years? If instead of surprising you, if the Eibishter had told you up front, only for 19 years, would you have said no? And of course I expected her to say, yeah, if that was the deal, yeah, fine, it would be great. She said, absolutely not. So I don't know why I said it, but anyway. I said, well, then it's a good thing he didn't ask you. The flood of tears, but real tears. And she was, finally, the catharsis. Sometimes it's good that the Eibishter doesn't ask us. We're each given a shlichus. We each have a purpose. Nobody else can do that shlichus. Because if somebody else could, then you wouldn't be necessary. So what you need to do and what you can do to fulfill the Eibishter's plan, nobody else can do. So when the Eibishter comes and says, "In b'chukei sai teleichu," you don't have to be a tzaddik, and you don't have to be spiritual, and you don't have to be frum, you don't have to be special. If the Eibishter comes and says, "This is what I need you for," who would say no? We don't say no. And we do it b'simcha. You know what people would give to know why they're alive? What kind of a blessing that is? To know why you're here? People would give anything. We know. And we should share that information. Ani lo nevresi elo l'shamush eskayni. The Eibishter created me because I'm necessary to him. There's nothing better. There's nothing more beautiful than that. I once asked a guy, he was a big Talmud Chacham, very frum in Eretz Yisrael. He was in Koilel all his life. We had this discussion. I said the Eibishter waits for your mitzvah. He needs your mitzvah. It hurts him when you don't do a mitzvah. He said, no, that's not his shitta. The Eibishter doesn't need anything. He's doing it only for our benefit. Because the Eibishter is perfect. The Eibishter is shleimusa d'koilo. The Eibishter is tachlis hashleimus. He can't need. So I asked him, put aside the arguments. Would you rather, personally, would you rather that the Eibishter really needs you and therefore he's not so perfect? Or would you rather that he be perfect and not need you? Aside from what says and what's written and the Gemaras, personally, what would you prefer? You know what he said? Eibishter should be perfect. Why? Why do you need the Eibishter to be perfect and not need you? What do you get from that? Couldn't explain it. Of course, the truth is that the Eibishter needs you, and that makes him perfect. There's no contradiction at all. But for a person to say, I would rather the Eibishter should be perfect and not need me, where is this coming from? If the Eibishter is perfect and doesn't need you, how do you have Ahavas Hashem? How do you love someone who doesn't need you? This is what the Tanya did. The Alter Rebbe came along and said, according to the Pasuk, every Yid loves the Eibishter b'teva. Korev eilecha me'oid. It is very natural for you to serve the Eibishter with your heart. The Alter Rebbe said, is that your experience? You find it very natural to love Hashem? If you get to understand Him, if you spend hours thinking about Him, then maybe, no guarantees, this is called natural. So the Torah says it's natural, but we're not seeing that. What's wrong? Where is the problem? One of the answers that the Alter Rebbe gives in Tanya is, if the Eibishter is what you think he is, of course you don't love him. Of course that's not an Eibishter. An Eibishter that doesn't care, doesn't need you, can't be bothered, and you're going to love him? Of course you're not going to love him. But that's not true. That's not the way the Eibishter is. If you knew who the Eibishter is, you would naturally love him. How can you not love someone who comes looking for you? How can you not love someone who says, I'm yours? So that's what the Barditcheva meant. How do you put such a big Eibishter into such a little sefer? And where was the Eibishter before the Tanya? Bashamayim. Bashamayim, Shamayim, Lashem. We had an Eibishter someplace in heaven, which is not nice. It's like, the uncle you keep in the attic. That's not a compliment. But then there's a possibility that you do know the Eibishter. And the reason you don't love him is because you don't know what you are. You don't know the nature of a Jew. You think a Jew is some human being practicing a religion called Judaism? No wonder you don't love him. So in one part of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe tells you what a Jew is. Nefesh Elokiz, Chelik Elokah Mimal. In another part of Tanya, Eibishter tells you what the Eibishter, Alter Rebbe tells you what the Eibishter is. Shara Yichud Ve'emunah. If you knew what a Jew is, and you know what an Eibishter is, of course you love him. So you see how things have gotten backwards. Eibishter doesn't get angry, human beings get angry. No? That's what you were taught? Eibishter doesn't have an arm, human beings have arms. That's what you were taught? Eibishter's not jealous. It says he's jealous, but he's not jealous. Human beings get jealous. V'chulu, v'chulu. So it turns out that so much of Torah is not really true. The Eibishter got angry. The Eibishter said, Ruach Piv doesn't have a mouth. He doesn't really speak. He doesn't really get jealous. He doesn't really have an arm. He doesn't really have an eye. He doesn't. Why? Because that's human. How did we get that so backwards? Let's start from the beginning. In the beginning, there's an Eibishter, and he has an arm, and he has a mouth, and he speaks, and he gets angry, and he gets pleasure, and he gets jealous. Then he created human beings in his image. So we also have a mouth, we also have an arm, we also have a head, we also speak, but not like him. He really speaks. He really has an arm. We have a copy. We also have an arm, but his arm is the real one. Ours is just a created one. How can it be that we have all sorts of things that he doesn't have? When Moshe Rabbeinu complained that he can't talk, the Eibishter says, "Mi samter lo adam." What do you think? You have a mouth? You got it from me. I'll fix it. So here's how we get confused. The Eibishter really has an arm? Yes. Torah doesn't lie. The Eibishter has an arm. No, but come on, really, a real arm? Yes. What, you mean like mine? No, a real one. Real, like mine? Yours is not real. His is real. The Eibishter said, Yehi oid. Come on, really? He spoke? Yep. Really? Yep. You mean like me? Nope. You say Yehi oid. See what happens. Garnished. The Eibishter said, Yehi vayehi. That's talking. So a cute example for it. My granddaughter was crying because the doll broke. The arm came off. So I walk over and I said, "Oh, that must have hurt so much." And she starts to laugh. "It didn't hurt." So what do you mean it didn't hurt? The arm came off. I said, "It's not a real arm." I said, "How do you know?" She said, "It's plastic." Wait, you can't make a real arm out of plastic? No. Can you make a real arm out of a bone? A bone? That's a real arm? Put a little skin on it? It's a real arm? Come on, it's pathetic. So who has a real arm? Human beings or the Eibishter? So when we're told it's not meant to be literal, see, that's very misleading. Of course it's literal. It's not meant to be gashmi. No, he doesn't have a physical arm. Oh, you mean it's not real? No. Because it's not physical, it is real. Doesn't that make more sense? So when people say, the Eibishter needs a relationship with you? Come on, he doesn't need. Human beings need. Again, the same thing. Where do you get needs from if he has no needs? You made it up. You invented it yourself. Come on. He has needs like an Eibishter. Real. You never have hang-ups. You can call it a need. It's not a real need. It's just a weakness. By him, it's a real need. So what does it basically say? The Eibishter is real. How did we get to be more real than him? And one of the proofs is in last week's parsha. You remember when Yaakov was wrestling with the Malach, with the angel, he asked the angel what his name is. What did the angel say? Malachim don't have names. Malachim are they're insubstantial. They've got a name. They're ruchim. They don't have names. Here, Moshe Rabbeinu asked the Eibishter, what is your name? Does the Eibishter say, name? I don't have a name. I'm Ruchni. No. The Eibishter told him his name. The Eibishter is not a malach. He's real. And what he wants is real. And what he wants is us. He wants us to be his. And we are. We are. We just don't appreciate it. Yes, Koyach. Huh? Yes. Not his fault. See, if vulnerable was a weakness, then you would have a good point. There's nothing weak about him. But since when is vulnerable a weakness? You know, I don't mean vulnerable like you can kill him with a bullet. Sensitive. He can be hurt because he's an Eibishter. He has an imagination? That, yeah. He can't? How can you say about an Eibishter that he can't? Hij kent de goud. Mm-hmm. Let me put it like this. The neshama is a chelek elokah, right? It's a tiny part of the Eibishter. Yeah? Even the neshama in a normal, ordinary Jew is hurt by unholiness. If the peace is hurt, imagine what the collective. Oh, it's his fault. I tell you, when the Malachim were complaining Zu Teure v'zu Schora. Yeah, by the Asara Harugei Malchus. The Malachim said, Zu Teire v'zu Schora. What did the Eibishter say? No? He said, if you don't stop complaining, I'll turn the world back to Tohu Vavohu. What kind of an answer is that? Malachim had a good time then. Zu Teire v'zu Schora? You're letting holy people suffer like that? And the Eibishter's answer is, shut up. What is this?
It's the first one.
Hmm?
It's not the first one.
What, that he said shut up?
Yeah.
That's his answer for everything? Because if not, it's not even a respectable answer for a human being to say. So there's a story that helps shed some light on this. Before we get to the story, Moshe Rabbeinu said, "Loma hara'isa la'om hazeh." What did the Eibishter say? Chaval al de'avdim v'lo mishtakchim. Avram Avinu would never have asked like that. What kind of answer is this? By Avram Avinu, the Yidden weren't suffering. I'm asking you why you're making Yidden suffer. So the story is like this. The Rebbe Marash passed away at a very young age. And he was suffering terribly for many, many years. His health was not good. In fact, back in those primitive days, he went through a number of operations, which couldn't possibly be good. So for many months, people had no access to the Rebbe. There was one chassid, Reb Hendel, who was very close to the Rebbe. Even in the worst days, he was able to go in and out of the room. So whoever had a problem would come to him and ask him to mention them to the Rebbe for a bracha. One Jew came to him, serious, painful problem, and asked him to mention it to the Rebbe. He was in the room with the Rebbe, and he saw what he thought was like an opportunity. So he said, so-and-so is asking. The Rebbe didn't answer. So Reb Hendel started to cry. And the Rebbe looked at him questioningly. So he said, so-and-so is in pain. He's in pain. And Hendel was an Mayan Yisroel. When he saw a Jew in pain, it killed him. So he was crying. He says, he's in pain. The Rebbe pointed to his bandage, and he said, and me? That's not an answer. From a Rebbe? What kind of answer is that? If you can't give a bracha, okay, but what is this? And what about me? That doesn't sound right. Especially the Rebbe Marash. The meaning of the story is simply like this. When the chassid said, I'm crying, it hurts me because he's in pain, the Rebbe pointed to his bandage and he said, and what do you think I'm suffering from? You think it bothers you that he's in pain? Look at me. Look what's happening to me because of his pain. When the Eibishter said, Shteik, kach ola b'machshava, the Eibishter is not saying, doesn't bother me, why does it bother you? The Eibishter is saying the opposite. You're a chelik elokah, and it bothers you. Can you imagine how much it bothers me? But what do you want me to do? Turn the world back into nothing? Cancel the whole thing? You can't do that. So when Imei Anochi B'Tzara, what does that mean? It doesn't mean I'm sorry for you that you're in pain. That's called sympathy. The Eibishter is not sympathetic, he's empathetic. He feels our pain. Now it's like, oh, you poor thing. You must be in pain. So when you say, Imei Anochi B'Tzara, that means he's not perfect. Or that means he's taka perfect. He's more than perfect. A human being who doesn't feel another human being's pain is a perfect human being or a damaged human being. A human being can say, look, I'm sorry for your problems, but I can't afford to take on your problem because I got my own. So I can't be bothered. What he's saying, the same thing is true of the Eibishter. He can't be bothered. He's got other things on his mind. He's the Eibishter. And because he's the Eibishter, the little things that you have no time for, he does. The little things that you can't be bothered by, bother him. Because he is infinite. You have to choose your battles. He can fight them all. So how is it possible for such a big Eibishter to worry about little things? It's only because he's so infinite. Because infinite, bli gvul, means no end, but also no beginning. Nothing is too big, and nothing is too small. If some things are too petty, too small for him to be concerned with, then he's not infinite. So when people say, how can it really matter to the Eibishter what I think or what I feel or what my machshavas are? Only an Eibishter, because he is bli gvul and because he's kol yochel, can actually seriously care about your kavanah. The Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, V'hinei Hashem nitzav olav u'boichen kloyes volev im oivdei kavod. That is such an amazing statement. The Eibishter tells you what to do. If you do it, you'll get a reward. If you don't do it, you'll be punished. Period. No. The Eibishter is standing over you to see in your heart and in your innards whether you're serving him correctly. Since when does your heart matter to him? Fine, the mitzvahs matter. He tells you, do this, don't do that. But what you're feeling inside your heart matters to him. How could that matter? You're a puny human being with fickle mood swings. The Eibishter is standing there and checking your heart? What kind of Eibishter is this? What difference does it make what you're thinking, what you're feeling? Do what you're told and you're okay. No. The Baal Shem Tov came along and said, Rachmana liba boy. Really? Not just the mitzvahs and the avedas. What are you feeling? What are you thinking? That matters to him? How is that possible? The answer is, Kol Yachol. That's an Eibishter. So if you want to be like the Eibishter, perfect like him, then care. Don't become perfect like a statue who doesn't care. He even cares what Pari thinks. Have to worry about that too. That's also my problem. Ultimately, the role of a goy is to celebrate the unique relationship between the Eibishter and Yidden. Don't worry about it. They're into it. Well, there are those running around today saying, we want to support Israel, we want to protect Israel because those who bless you will be blessed. They don't find that offensive. They think it's wonderful. We bought a Chabad house in a non-Jewish neighborhood, and 2 days later, 2 couples knock on the door. We would like to donate a swing set, a play thing. Our husbands will put it up, but we would like to donate it because those who bless you are blessed. They donated this beautiful swing set, play, whatever. And the husbands, huh? Yes. They have Sheva mitzvahs, and they have to do them, and they have to be Chasidei Umas Ha'olam, and so on and so forth. But their mitzvahs? Yes. But all so that he can have a relationship with Yidden. That's why it says that when Mashiach comes, V'hoyu melochem avnayich, the kings will be your servants, not by force. They'll beg. What can we do to help? But then a very, very powerful thing. A couple of weeks ago, I tell you exactly the date, November 10th, on the English calendar, we were reading the parsha where Yaakov was wrestling with Esav's malach. And Rashi says, Yaakov wanted the bracha from the malach. Wouldn't let him go to it. What bracha? Rashi says he wanted the malach to agree, to admit that he is the real Bechor. And the malach agreed. Then the Torah says all the descendants of Esav are their names. The last Rashi on the parsha tells you that the name of one of his sons, Zuraymi. That's Rome. That's the last word in Rashi. The week that we were reading that parsha, the spokesman from Rome, the Pope, went to speak to the Jewish community, and he said, "You are our older brothers." So the Mefarshim say on this parsha that when the Malach admitted that Yankov was the Becher, that was the beginning. But the conclusion of it will happen in Yemei HaMashiach. And of all the expressions that he could choose, these galachim that I speak to over there, they say, why do we want to hear from you? Why do we want to know about Judaism? You've had the Bible 1,000 years longer than us. You must know something we don't know. Yeah, you can say it that way. He picked Dafke to say you're the older brother. So what actually happened was it took about 4,000 years to go from the Malach admitting it to the Galach admitting it. From a Malach to a Galach is about 4,000 years. But this is like the Galach is Galach. And he's saying, Yidden, you're our older brothers. They're Cheres. So the world is ready. We don't have to worry about that. Chaim.
If anyone wants a recording of this class or any other classes,